وصحبه أجمعين. This is section 6.5 and it's about trigonometric equations. A trigonometric equation is an equation that contains a trigonometric expression. So if we have a trigonometric expression like sine, cosine, whatever, any of the trigonometric functions, we can say that this is a trigonometric equation. We have seen that some trigonometric equations are identities, such as sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. Identities are equations that are always true for every value of the variable in the domain in which they are defined. In this section, we will not consider identities. We will consider trigonometric equations that are true for only some values. Not always true for only some values. So these are the trigonometric equations we are going to consider in this section. Now, the values that satisfy such an equation are called solutions. So what are the solutions of the equation? The values that satisfy the equation. There are trigonometric equations that have no solution. So the solution set could be, for some trigonometric equations, phi. This is an example of a trigonometric equation. This is a trigonometric equation. Sine x equals half. A solution of this equation is pi over 6. How to check that pi over 6 is a solution? Use your calculator. Find sine pi over 6, or use the triangle we know. So sine pi over 6 is half, so pi over 6 is a solution of this equation. Pi is not a solution of this equation. Why? Because sine pi is not half. Sine pi is 0. Okay. Now, an important question. Is pi over 6 the only solution of this equation? And the answer is no. This equation has infinitely many solutions. Let us look to the graph of sine. This is the graph of sine. And this is the line y equals half. This line is the line y equals half. Now we need sine x to be equal to half. Sine x should be equal to half. Where sine x would be equal to half? Here. Here sine x is half at -7 pi over 6. Here sine x is half at pi over 6. Here sine x is half at 5 pi over 6. Here and here. So in this interval from -7 pi over 6 to 17 pi over 6, mashallah, we have 5 solutions. We have 5 solutions of this equation, sine x equals to half. Okay, so how to find all the solutions of this equation? We add a multiple of 2 pi. We add a multiple of 2 pi. Because now, you look to one period. You remember the equation of the graph of sine? One period would be from here to here. This is one period from here to here. How many solutions are there in the first period from 0 to 2 pi? How many solutions? 2 pi over 6 and 5 pi over 6. So we say that x equals pi over 6 is a solution, and we add 2 in pi. So x equals pi over 6 plus 2 in pi, where n is any integer. What are the integers? The integers 0, 1, -1, -2, 2, and so on. These are the integers. So you can replace n by any of these numbers. So all of these would be solutions of the equation sine x equals to half. Also, 5 pi over 6, which is the solution in the first revolution, in the first period, is a solution, 5 pi over 6, so add 2 n pi. So when the question is find all solutions of this equation, this would be the answer. Pi over 6 plus 2 n pi and 5 pi over 6 plus 2 n pi, all of these are solutions. How can you find some of these solutions? You replace n by any integer you like. For example, if you put n 0, okay, then n would be 0. So this would be 0, and you will have the answer pi over 6. So pi over 6 is a solution. If you use your calculator, find sine pi over 6, it would be half. You can put 0 also in the other equation. So you will get 5 pi over 6. This is also a solution. Try sine 5 pi over 6 in the calculator. It would be also half. You can take n1. Okay. So you add 2 pi to pi over 6. So 13 pi over 6 is also a solution of this equation. Or if you add 2 pi to 5 pi over 6, then 17 pi over 6 is also a solution. So these are 4 solutions of this equation when you just replace n by 0 and 1. If you replace n by 2, you will get another 2 solutions. If you replace n by -1, you will get another 2 solutions. So there are infinitely many solutions of this equation because sine x is not one-to-one function. So there are infinitely many solutions. Now let us solve these exercises. Use substitution to determine whether the given x value is a solution of this equation. So is pi over 6 a solution of this equation? How would you find out? Try sine pi over 6. Use the calculator and find sine pi over 6, or you can just use the rectangle, okay? Make sure that you are in the radian mode, not in the degree mode. So the answer is half. Sine pi over 6 is half. It is not square root of 3 over 2. So pi over 6 is not a solution of this equation. So this equation, pi over 6 is not a solution because we tried pi over 6 and it didn't work. Okay, I hope you understand. So please check this one. Is cosine 2 pi over 3, is it negative half? If it is negative half, 2 pi over 3 would be a solution. If it is not negative half, then 2 pi over 3 is not a solution. Also try this one. Our first objective in the section is how to find all solutions of a trigonometric equation. And we will consider now equations involving a single trigonometric function. Like what? Like these equations. All of these equations, sine x equals, cosine x equals, tan 2x equals, all of these equations involve single trigonometric function. In the coming objectives, we will talk about equations with more than one trigonometric function. So let us talk first when we have a single trigonometric function. What should we do? Isolate the function on one side. So it has to be like this. If it is not written like this, write it like this. You have to isolate the trigonometric function in one side, and then you solve for the variable. So let us solve this equation. I have sine x here, one trigonometric function. So the first step is to isolate sine x in one side. So what to do? This is here I have 3 sine x. I take 5 sine x to the other side. And here I have -1. And I take -2 to the other side. So it would be +2. Now 3 sine x minus 5x is -2 sine x. -1 plus 2 is 1. Now solve the equation for sine x. Okay, solve for the variable. Solve for sine x. So sine x would be -1 over 2. 1 over -2 is negative 1 over 2. And now you solve this equation. Now, please pay attention. How would we solve this equation? You can use the calculator, okay, to find sine inverse negative half. If you ask the calculator and find sine inverse of negative half, the calculator will say to you negative pi over 6. Remember, we need to find all solutions. The calculator will give you one of the solutions. We need to find all solutions. And to find all solutions, we do the following. From this solution, I understand that the reference angle is pi over 6. Remember, the reference angle is always positive, acute. So the reference angle is pi over 6. Now, I have pi over 6 here, and this is 6 pi over 6. So I have 5 pi over 6 here, and 7 pi over 6 here, and 11 pi over 6 here, and this is 12 pi over 6, 2 pi. Why I'm considering these four angles? Now these four angles, pi over 6, 5 pi over 6, 7 pi over 6, 11 pi over 6, all of these four angles have reference angle equal to pi over 6. So reference angle is pi over 6 for pi over 6, 5 pi over 6, 7 pi over 6, and 11 pi over 6. And these are the angles in the first revolution from 0 to 2 pi. From 0 to 2 pi. I will solve this equation first from 0 to 2 pi. Now please pay attention. Sine x is negative. Sine x is negative, and we know that sine is negative in this quadrant and in this quadrant. And it's positive in quadrant 1 and 2. All students take calculus or all STC. So sine is negative here and here. So what are the solutions of this equation? Then the solutions are 7 pi over 6 or 11 pi over 6. These two angles, because sine is negative. If sine is positive, the solutions would be pi over 6 and 5 pi over 6. These are the two solutions in the first revolution. To find all solutions, I just add 2n pi, 2n pi, where n is an integer. So this is the solution set. Now check your solution. Find sine 7 pi over 6, it would be negative half. Sine 11 pi over 6, it would be negative half. Add 0, replace n by 0, replace n by 1, replace n by 2. We have infinitely many solutions of this equation, and these are the solutions. All of the solutions are written here. So this is how we solve this equation. I leave this for you. Please do the same. Okay, isolate sine in one side and use the same method to find all the solutions. And here is the answer. Okay, the answer is given to you. Another question, find all solutions of each equation. We have 15, 17, 19, 23. Okay, I'm not going to solve all of them. I will leave this for you. And let me solve number 17. This equation is simplified. It is solved for the trigonometric function. Tan x equals to 0. Immediately, you don't have to do anything. So what should you do? You find tan inverse of 0. When you have tan inverse of 0, this would be one solution. The calculator will give you only one solution. It cannot give you more than that. So x is 0. So one of the solutions of this equation is 0. And the question, how can I find all the solutions of this equation? Because this equation has infinitely many solutions. And now look here. Do you remember these 4 points? These 4 points are very important now to have the solution of this equation. If you remember here, of course, this is 0, this is the angle 0, this is the angle pi over 2, and this is the angle pi, and this is 3 pi over 2, and this is also 2 pi, and so on. And if you remember, we said that sine here is the y coordinate, and cosine here is the x coordinate. So tan x is 0. Which angle has tan 0? What is tan? Tan is y over x. Tan theta is y over x. So 1 over 0 is not 0, undefined. This is 0 and negative 1. This is not 0 and 1. This is 0 and negative 1. Negative 1 over 0, undefined. 0 over 1 is 0. So 0 is a solution. Tan 0 is 0. And that's the solution given by the calculator. But this solution, the calculator did not give it to me. Tan pi is also 0 because 0 over negative 1 is 0. So I have two solutions. Either x is 0 or x is pi, okay? So there are two solutions in the first revolution from 0 to 2 pi. Now please pay attention. I need to add 2 pi, a multiple of 2 pi. So I need to add 2n pi here and 2n pi here. Okay? So 0 is a solution. Adding 2 pi, you get 2 pi. Adding another 2 pi, 4 pi. So 0, 2 pi, 4 pi are all solutions. Pi is also a solution. 3 pi is a solution. 5 pi is a solution. So this is the set of all solutions of this equation. Here we have all the solutions of this equation. I leave 19 for you, okay? Either 19 or 23. Let me solve 19 and leave 23 for you. What is the first step? We need to solve this equation for the variable or for the function, the trigonometric function cosine x. If you take square root to the other side, it would be negative square root of 3 over 2. So that's the equation written in simplest form. Now what to do? How to find all the solutions of this equation? I need to use the calculator, but the calculator will give me only one solution. So get that solution, cosine inverse negative square root of 3 over 2. Be sure that you are in the radian mode. The calculator says 5 pi over 6. Put in your mind that I am not interested in 5 pi over 6. I am using the calculator to find the reference angle. So what is the reference angle of x? Okay, what is the reference angle of x? The reference angle of x is pi over 6. We said before, if you have any angle written in simplest form, So the reference angle would be pi over 6 if the denominator is 6. So the reference angle is pi over 6. Or you can sketch the graph of 5 pi over 6. Well, we solved this here. We have pi over 6, 5 pi over 6, 7 pi over 6, 11 pi over 6. This is 5 pi over 6, and the reference angle is pi over 6 for all of these 4 angles. But here in this question, cosine, we have cosine, and cosine is negative. And cosine is negative here and here. So the answer would be 5 pi over 6 and 7 pi over 6. So the answer is 5 pi over 6, and you add 2n pi, or 7 pi over 6 and you add 2n pi. This is the set of all solutions of this equation. Let me do this one. Okay, try this one too. 3 sine theta, bring 2 sine theta to this side, so I will have 5 sine theta. Okay, equals, take 5 to the other side. So when you solve this equation for sine theta, you get that sine theta is -1. -1 or 0 or 1, this means that I'm going to use this figure. You need to memorize these figures. Okay, so sine is -1. Sine is y. Where is y? -1 here. So the only solution is 3 pi over 2 in the first quadrant. You can use the calculator to find sine inverse of -1. Let us see what the calculator will say. Sine inverse of -1, negative pi over 2. The calculator says negative pi over 2. This is by the calculator. But it is not the answer we need, although it is the same. Of course, it would be an answer. But I need this one, which is 3 pi over 2, which is in the first revolution. Of course, negative pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2 are coterminal angles, so both are solutions. But I will write the solution as 3 pi over 2. Now, using this figure, I can see that it is the only solution, because here sine is 0, here sine is 1, here sine is 0. So this is the only solution in the first revolution. So I can add 2n pi. And this would be the set of all solutions of this equation in this case. If you replace n by -1, you will have negative pi over 2. If you write here negative pi over 2 plus 2n pi, it would be also correct. Okay? Because negative pi over 2 is included here. So these are the solutions of this equation. Please try this one, and the answer is given to you. And I would like to stop here, because once you know how to solve a trigonometric equation with one single variable, everything will be easy after that, because this is the method we are going to use always in the coming objectives. We will go back always to one single trigonometric function. Thank you very much.